Alright guys, so this is another video in our beginner series where we're going over basically how to talk to different blueprints. How do blueprints communicate with one another? How do we send information back and forth between these blueprints? And this episode, at least, we're going to be going over my favorite way of doing it, which is interfaces. I think a lot of the other YouTubers will agree with me that the interfaces are kind of the bread and butter of easily and cleanly and performantly sending information, especially when it's repetitions information. So in this case, we're kind of using an interface to talk about how we want to interact with something. In my puzzle game that I'm building right now, we use it to tell a what I call a task manager or puzzle manager that a puzzle has been completed. Also to track the progress of a puzzle. And the way that we do that is we send all the information through an interface. All of these different puzzles and all of these different clues and hints and all that stuff all interact with each other through this interface and then up to the puzzle manager, which the puzzle manager then interacts with a room manager, and then the room manager interacts with the entire level manager. It's this huge system. I know that none of that probably makes any sense. If it did make sense, yay. You're a lot further ahead than you think you are then. But basically what I'm trying to say is this is a use case that we're going to be using this on, but the ability to use this for, I don't know how to explain it. Basically, there's a lot of different use cases that you could use this on. I used the word use like 55 times just then. But anyways, so in this case, we're actually going to be going around, and if I left click here, it opens the door. It basically, we did a sphere trace. The sphere trace hit the door. It said, hey, this has the interaction interface on it. Or actually in this case, it's the unlock interface. And it told the door, hey, unlock. Over here, we are doing the same thing. We're telling these lights that we want them to unlock. And so they do their own thing depending on what the code is for them. All they basically receive is this command to unlock. When they receive that command or the function, or a message, actually, I think is the best way of saying it. They receive a message saying unlock. And when they receive that message, they do what their own original thing is for their own stuff. So, for example, the door, when it receives unlock, it opens. The light, when it receives unlock, it turns on. And then this button here, when it receives unlock, it unlocks everything else. So all of that came through one little itty bitty node. Let me open one of these guys up really quick. This event on unlock. Just one little node did all of that. I'm going to show you guys how to basically make that node. All right, so I'm going to just move to the side here. Normally I will reset the whole thing, but I don't think we need to do that for this. I even have it in a folder called before. So what I did is in the contents folder, I made a new folder. I called it blueprints, and now I'm inside that blueprints folder. Cool, you guys are caught up. All right, so now inside of that folder, I'm going to right click. I'm going to make myself a new folder for us today, and this will be called the interactables. Interactables. I feel like that's not how you spell that. Interactables. That feels weird. All right, anyways, we're gonna open the interactables folder up. I'm gonna right click, go to blueprints, go to blueprint interface, and this will be called the interact underscore interface. I'm gonna open that up and get ready, because this is gonna be a lot of information. Just kidding, literally one node. So I'm just gonna call this thing on interact. You'll see that up here in the top right. And then, as you saw in mine, I actually passed through the actor. So here we're gonna come down to inputs. I'm gonna pass through actor. That'll be the name of it. And then again over here, search for the word actor. Scroll down to object types. Find where it says actor. Come over here, get the object reference. And for some reason that didn't stay for me, so I'm gonna do it again. Actor, object types, actor, object reference. Cool. File, save, close that. You're done. I get it, nothing happened, right? But you're done with the interface. The interface itself is complete. Now we can make new blueprints. So I'm gonna go back in here, I'm gonna go right click, blueprint class, actor, and I'm just gonna call this BP interact underscore light. You don't have, you can just call it BP light if you guys want. I'm just calling interact light because I already have another script called BP light. I'm gonna open this up. Going to, this is at a cube, make this nice and simple. Raise this cube up to where it's on the top of the grid, and I'm going to take the X and the Y and set both of those to 0.25. Now we got a nice pillar, and then I'm going to add a little point light to this. So search for point light. Okay, I'm going to raise that guy up. Let's set its color. Red. There we go. I'm gonna go 10,000 on this just to make it a little bit brighter, and I'm gonna turn the shadows off. And that's all the setup we need for making it pretty. So now I'm gonna go over to the event graph, get rid of all this stuff, and we're gonna go to class settings, and then implemented interfaces over here on the right. And we're gonna search for our interact interface. Here it is. And what that did is over here on the left, we'll see we've got this new function underneath interface called onInteract. Double click to, I can't talk. Double click to implement that. And so we do have the actor here that we can find out, hey, who sent this? Who sent the message? Well, honestly, we don't really need it. I like doing it because later on you'll want to cast and find out information from that actor, or whatever reason you might need it. More often than not, I do need it, but in this case we don't. So just a good practice to have that on there. That's why we did that. But anyways, so whenever we do receive that interact or event on interact message, what do we want to do? Well, I was thinking, let's turn the light on and off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the point light, bring it out here, and then we're just gonna say set visibility. And we want this to turn on and off, right? So the best way of doing that is right click, search for a flip flop. And this thing with its funny name basically will flip and flop between two different things. That probably still doesn't make sense. So basically, whenever it receives information, the very first time that it executes, it'll go through A. The second time that it executes, it'll go through B. What's nice is it has this handy dandy boolean here. Let us know if it's going through A or if it's going through B. Basically, if it's going through A or not. If it's not, then it returns false. If it is, then it returns true. So we can actually use that true false and just plug it straight into this new visibility here, and plug B into here as well. So now 3 nodes, and we're good, or if you count the point light itself, and we're good to go. Now we can interact with this thing. But we gotta get the player some method of interacting with it, some way to send this to it. So what we can do is I'm gonna go look for our player character. That's going to be on a third person folder under blueprints. If you're in a first person template or whatever, then go find your character. It'll be under like your first person folder. Open up the character and ignore this part because you won't have this. This is from earlier. I'm going to just right click and I'm going to say keyboard E. Yeah, I know some of you are pulling your hair out right now. You want me to go through inputs to do this. I would, but this is not an episode teaching you guys about inputs. There will be one, I promise, when I get around to it. But we don't need to teach you guys about inputs, so we're going to do it the quick and dirty way. And just find this guy, and then do all of our logic out of that. This works just fine. So, at least for our purposes today, we'll use it. All right. So one of the things we want to do, let me delete this interact arrow. Actually, let me delete all of this logic up here. You guys don't need that. And I'm going to delete the interact arrow just so I can set that up with you guys. So I'm going to go back to the viewport over here. And I'm going to add an arrow to the player, but you never saw that one coming. I'm going to raise the arrow up, this red one here, because it comes with the arrow automatically. We can't really use that for the code, so meh. So we're going to put our own in because we don't need theirs, because theirs is stupid and it smells. And I'm going to rename this by selecting it, pressing F2, and call it the interact arrow. Go back to the event graph, and basically it's just a nice way of referencing where this is coming from. So I'm going to pull this arrow in, and I'm going to say get world location, and I'm jumping way ahead. Hold on, let's slow down here. You guys are like, why are we getting the location of the arrow? Well, what we're wanting to do here, I'm going to pull off this E, I'm going to say sphere trace by channel, because what we're going to do is cast this sphere around us and say, hey, is there anything here that we want to interact with? Well, in this case, we're going to do it from the interact arrow, and it's also going to end at the interact arrow because that's just the point of for it to start and end. But we also want to have a radius. I'm going to set this to 100. Should be fine. I'm going to set our draw debug to for duration, and then I'm going to set the duration down here under draw time to be about 1 second. The debug is just so we can see it, so I can show you guys what we're talking about. But basically now, when I press E, you'll notice that it draws this red arrow or red circle around us. And if it was to actually hit something, I'll probably show that really quick too. If it was to hit something, it'll turn green. So, oh, hey, we found something, we hit something. Okay, and so we want whatever it hits, at least the first thing that it hits, it's gonna look at it and say, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Let's slow down. Out of the sphere trace, we want to do a branch. If you hold B and left click, you'll get a branch, or you can just right click and search for branch. This is basically just a true false thing. If this is true, then it goes through true. If it's false, it goes through false, obviously. And this return value is basically, did we hit something? So remember earlier when it was red, that would return false. If it, when it hit and it turned green, that would return true. I want to pull off of this out hit. I want to break this, and you'll notice we get this little node here. We want to hit this arrow, and you'll see it expands, and it's this huge thing that gives a lot of different information. Don't worry, all we really want is the hit actor. So we're going to pull off of this, and we're going to ask, does this hit actor, and this is, if you haven't figured it out, it is the actor that we hit. And we want to look into that actor, and now we got a lot of information from it. It's like, does this guy implement the interface that we're looking for? In our case, we're looking for the interact interface. Make sure to put that in the drop down. And then I'll hold B again on left click to get another branch. I'll plug this in. So if we did hit it, then we want to just tell that guy, hey, on interact. We're going to send that on interact message to it. And so you see here, it's even called message to the side. And then in case it's wanting it, we can just pull off of active here, and we can say, hey, the actor that's wanting to interact with you is me, myself. So you get a reference to yourself, plug it in, cool, done. Now we're able to interact with that light, which I did not put one out in the world, did I? So I'm gonna go scroll back up here to my interactables. I'm gonna grab that light, put it out in the world. And real quick, I'm gonna go back in there because I see that the light is on. I wanna select the point light here, go to viewport so you guys can see it. So we have it selected. I'm gonna search in the details panel for visible. I'm gonna turn that off. That way it starts as off, and then when we interact with it, it'll turn on. There it goes. Off, on, off. Now you can strobe light people if you want. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now you can use this across multiple different things. So like if I come over here to our to my door that I made in the thing, let me delete that because that's nothing now. We want to add that interact interface. I know you guys can't follow along with this part of it, but just want to show you guys. Now I can just add the interact interface and just say on interact, we want to open the door. And you'll notice when I run over here, I press E, get our circle and open the door. And if I press E on these guys, it's not doing anything because we didn't implement the interface on them. Is that door supposed to shut after a little while? Anyways, I'm not worried about that. We can. I got rid of the logic for that. I forgot I deleted it. All right, but you get the idea. With the same interact thingy, we were able to interact here. And let me restart this so I can interact with the door again. So I was able to interact here and then come over here and interact with the door. Very simple. If you guys have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as best I can. But this is a way to speak between different different blueprints, send information, or just send, hey, I want you to do this thing with this information. Another way that we'll be getting into later on will be through like event dispatchers, through casting. I'm drawing a blank now, but there's other ones that I can't think of. But we'll get into episodes and we'll try and thoroughly go through those as well. If you guys want to know how to make a door open and close, here you go. I'll just keep that on the screen for a second. Not teaching it in this episode, but there. There you go. You know, this one didn't close for some reason a second ago. I don't know why. But anyways, probably because we don't have the event lock anymore. Yeah. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this, if you learned something, please like, comment. You can do like I did on my last video and actually comment a like symbol, which is awesome. Thank you so much. I can't remember who that was, but thank you. If you want to support the channel even further, I do have a Patreon. We do have a Discord. The link is in the description below. People jump in there all the time and ask for help on their school projects, stuff like that. Hey, I can't figure out this thing. I need to get it figured out for school or work or whatever. I don't mind. Jump in there. I'll help out if I have time. Now, if you pay me, that's a different thing. I'll make time. But I haven't actually done that yet, so I don't know how we would do it. Anyways, I'll help out. I'll see you guys next time.